Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadwordpress.com, and I am so happy to be back here live with you again. This is always so much fun, and I love to just chat with you here, see what questions you have, see what comments you make, just any insight that you can give me. I just absolutely love it. I've learned so much in these past few weeks by actually getting to talk in real time with all of you. So today what we're actually going to be talking about is homeschooling high school, and it's something that I get a lot of questions about. So it's something that I thought, you know what, right now is a good time to talk about that, because you can ask me the questions right away. So I figure I'm just going to give it just a minute or two to let other people join in, because I know that I did start about a minute early. That's me. I'd always rather be early than late. So anyway, if you were here last week, I just have a couple updates on some things we were talking about in the chat last week. Someone had mentioned asking me about if I heard about the little boy who was made to write ma'am over and over again on a paper by his teacher at school. And at that time, I had not heard about that. But if you haven't heard about it, what actually ended up happening, I think it was last week or maybe the week before, a 10-year-old boy, he was raised to always say yes ma'am and no ma'am by his parents, which to me is an awesome sign of respect. And it's something that I really wish we would have done with our own kids. I just love that. Well, apparently the teacher had said not to say yes ma'am to her. I don't know if she instructed the class. Hi, Tati. Am I saying it right, Tati? I can never tell if I said your name right or not. Sorry, I'm terrible with that. But anyway, so she had instructed, I'm not sure if it was the class or just the little boy, if or not to ever call her ma'am. And so he forgot, and when she addressed him with something, he answered back, yes, ma'am. And she actually made this little 10-year-old boy write ma'am, I'd say about 200 times. It was, oh, I am, thank you. She made him write ma'am four words per line on every single line of the notebooking or of the notebook page, both sides. So it turned out that he had to write ma'am like 200 times as punishment, because he had the audacity to call his teacher ma'am, you know, a sign of respect. I can think of lots worse things that students have called teachers, especially, you know, in this day and age. So to be called ma'am, I'm not quite sure what the problem was, but what made it even sadder was that this little boy has a seizure disorder, and he had just been hospitalized for the seizure disorder, and it actually causes him to lose his memory at times. And now the teacher didn't know this, but you know, the fact is that, come on, common sense. If a 10-year-old boy is saying yes ma'am to you, he's not doing it to irk you. He's doing it to show you respect. And you know, I'm not exactly sure if there was any disciplinary action taken against this teacher. I think from what the article that I read, at least, it just said that the school said they were dealing with it. But I mean, really, is that where we have gotten to in this period of time, that it's considered disrespectful to say yes ma'am and no ma'am? Just awful. But anyway, okay, well, it's about 10:03 now, and prompt as I am, we'll get started talking a little bit about homeschooling high school. And the reason that I decided to do this is because I know that this is one of those times, homeschooling high school, when a lot of parents will actually decide to send their kids back to school, because the entire thought of, or the entire prospect of homeschooling high school can be really intimidating, because you're just thinking, you know, this is the last 4 years that your kids will have in school, unless they go on to college. This is their last 4 years to prepare for life. This is their last 4 years of education, again, unless they are planning on going to college. And so a lot of parents feel ill-equipped at getting their kids ready for this, which, if you think about it, really makes a statement about the school system that the parents themselves came from. If the school system was not able to prepare parents adequately, why would they do any better with students? So that's just a question that you have to ask. But you know, I think that I really have a much different approach to high school than most people do. Erica says, yay, I'm a nervous wreck about high school. My oldest is in 8th grade, so I'm looking ahead I'm so glad that you are liking these videos, because you know what? The thing is that I think that I have a much different approach to high school than a lot of homeschooling parents do. Because what I have realized through doing this, because now I have graduated my first homeschooler, I graduated last year, and I just graduated my second homeschooler. Hi, Heidi. I just graduated my second homeschooler this past June. So I learned, from actually being down in the trenches, because, when I did have my first high schooler that I graduated, I kind of went the route that most parents do. I was nervous. So I was being really strict about subjects that she was taking. And I was actually kind of going against my whole philosophy of how life is about learning, and about how subjects don't need to be separated. And, all areas are just all encompassing. You are literally pulling from all areas all the time to learn. And I was not doing that with high school. I was doing it, with my littles. I was doing it with my middles. And then all of a sudden, I got to high school, and I still do this to a point. It was kind of like I was back to just breaking everything up into subjects again. And it didn't work, especially when my daughter got a job. She was working pretty many hours because they knew that she was homeschooled. And over time, she ended up not having as much time to do her work as I wanted her to. And I started freaking out every now and then. And I would ask her, did you get this done? Did you get that done? And she is, my daughter, even now, she's very laid back. She's so much more laid back than I am. As you can tell, I'm pretty high strung. She's so laid back, and she would just be like, Mom, it's okay. No, it's all right. And you know what? Over time, I realized that she was right. No, she was not spending as much time on academics as I had originally planned for her to do that senior year of high school. But she was learning so much more out in the workforce. And that is when I realized that these high school years, if your kids have had a good foundation of learning in their earlier years. Now, and I just want to let you know, I am going to get to the chat in a little bit. I just want to say this before I forget, because I'm like that. But if your kids have had a good foundation of learning, in their earlier years, I truly believe that the period of high school years, yes, of course, if they have plans for college, you do need to research what they need to know, and you need to make sure that you get that settled first. But I would really say that for the most part, we don't give enough credit, or enough attention, I should say, to the fact that this is the time for kids to learn how to be an adult. This is the time for them to learn all of the things that they are going to have to do once they step out into that real world. Yeah, we always hear about the real world when our kids are homeschooled. And yes, by and large, our kids are in the real world all the time. And this is really the time for them to put that into action. Like my daughter, she learned how to have her own bank account through all of this. She learned how to manage time on her own. And that was another question. I always talk about how my teenagers were always night owls. They were usually doing their work while I was asleep, because that was when they were awake the most. And people would always say to me, but what happens when they get a job? How are they going to learn to wake up early in the morning? And the fact is that, first of all, not all jobs are early in the morning. And second of all, interestingly enough, my daughter's first job, she did have to be at work sometimes at 6:30 in the morning. And she would be up until 4 o'clock in the morning. But the amazing thing about it that most people don't think about it is that alarm clocks really do work. So if your child wants to work, if they want to get out there and have this responsibility, that's all that they need. Now, I'm sure there are some people who are harder to get up, but my daughter is one of those people that, when I would try to wake her up, like for church, I would have to be calling her over and over and over and over and over again. But when it came time for her to actually have this responsibility, she would get up like that. Like, she would be out of the house before I was even awake. And the thing is that this time that we spent with her doing this, with her learning all of these actual life skills that are going to have an impact on her life. She took the placement test for the community college because that's what they require. She did awesome. She barely had math her senior year, and she didn't have to. She already had 3 credits, and according to Pennsylvania law, you only need 3 credits to graduate. So she did do it 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. She also did tackle pretty much math, excuse me, her senior year, but not as much as she had the other years. So what ended up happening was she scored higher on the math portion of the placement test than her friends who had gone to public school and were taking math the whole year. So, you know, you learn over time that everything balances out. It really does. And, you know, if you think about your own time in high school, you know, and I'm not going to say, oh, I hated school and it was awful. I loved school. I really did. Not so much because I thought that the classes were so interesting. It was more just because, you know, I was a drama geek, you know, and I wrote for the newspaper. Even then, I loved writing. So, you know, I got involved in those sorts of things. But looking back, even as someone who knew how to play the school game really well, even now I've realized that probably about 95% of what I learned in school, I've never had to use it. Other than maybe knowing some extra things, you know, from when I'm teaching them to my own kids for homeschooling, really, I don't need to know, or I should say, I never had to actually utilize the things. I'm like getting distracted because my cat is walking around on the table. I'm afraid she's going to knock my camera over. But anyway, I never actually had to utilize the things that I learned in school. And so that's why I think it's so important that we stop worrying ourselves so much over the academics of it all. Because if you think about it, even if your kids are going to college, they have to take all of those core classes again anyway. So even if they don't do a phenomenal job on it, they have to do all of that again, which is another video entirely, because I really think that's a waste of money, the way that the whole college system works and how they make you take classes that have nothing to do with your major. But again, that's for another day. But yeah, that's something that I have really learned. Now, since I am done, I'm just going to quick go over here and see what's in the chat. So just hold on one second. Oh, Heather Austin. I thought you were someone new here. I'm glad to see you here, though. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go back up to the top to see what I missed. Let's see. My eldest is only second grade, but I couldn't miss a live chat with you. Thank you. That's so sweet. Tell my kids that. I must say that every week because my kids, they're always like, Mom talks too much. So I have two of them down here with me now. They're probably thinking, yes, yes, you do. Okay, let me see. Thank you, Kaylin. They're bringing my water to me. Anyway, so my oldest is only 5th grade, but my husband is a homeschool graduate and his mom did high school how you do it. See? And he's successful, right? It works. We don't need to recreate school at home. We don't need to follow the public school model, even when it comes to high school. Keep telling yourself that, okay? That the public school model does not magically start working once you get to high school. If it didn't work for your kids, if it didn't, I just looked at my thing now. I see that it's, oh, okay, anyway. Sorry, I'm like talking to myself. But if it didn't work for your kids like when they were younger, it's not going to work when they're in high school either. There are cars outside that are like drag racing. Oh my gosh, I do not like living on a busy street like this. I really do not. Anyway, I'm homeschooling 2 high schoolers right now, and I have no idea what I am doing. Do any of us ever? It's all about trial and error, isn't it? It's all about just finding what works, and then as soon as you find something that works, a lot of times it stops working and you have to move on. But you know, that's what life is. You have to learn how to adjust to difficulties. You have to learn how to adapt to things. So that's my pep talk now. When I think that I have things going perfectly and a wrench gets thrown in my plans, I just, you know, tell myself, okay, it's time to adapt again. So isn't that really what it's like? Let's see. Just started our 2nd year of high school at home. I think we're doing okay, but I do have times of anxiety that I'm missing something. And you know, yeah, I think that a lot of us start to feel like that at times. And a big reason for that is just because even if we know that we don't need to be actual teachers to homeschool our children, I think that since most of us were raised that way, we were raised in the school system, a lot of us really do, I think, even subconsciously think, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not qualified to do this. So a lot of times, even when we say that on the outside, even when we say that to other people who might be questioning us, a lot of times we might have that just that little, inkling in us that maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And, that's something that's really, really hard to overcome. But we all get that anxiety at times. But to me, it's good to have that anxiety, because at least that will keep you making sure that you are doing your best at all times with your kids. So use that anxiety for good. Let's see. Hi, homeschooling and a doodle. Okay, let's see. Now I just lost it every time that I do that. Okay. We are 3 years away from high school, and I never thought I'd homeschool through high school, but now I am fully committed, so thanks for this chat. You're welcome. And that really, I was talking earlier about why some people choose to homeschool high school, just because they get intimidated by the whole thing. But the fact is that I honestly believe that high school is the time. Now, of course, I believe that you should homeschool all the way throughout. After the research that I've done on the public school system, never again, never. But if there is one period of time that I would have to pick, I would say high school, which a lot of people would say the opposite. They would say, no, let them go to high school to learn the harder things, and so that the guidance counselor can help them get ready for college and everything. But I honestly believe that high school is the time that you need to have your kids home for so many different reasons. First of all, there's the safety issue, which unfortunately, safety isn't good even in elementary schools. But a lot of times it tends to be even worse once you get up into those high school years. I know my school district alone, a few years ago, a girl was shot in the leg outside of the high school. I think it was 2 years ago, a girl pushed a teacher down well, first she punched a teacher in the face, a female teacher, and then pushed her down the bleachers. So that girl ended up in juvie for a while. And that's just the kind of stuff that happens nowadays, and it's awful. And my mom always tells me about this movie that she used to watch called Blackboard Jungle, and I don't know if any of you ever heard of that. I never saw it myself, but she always said that she would say to my dad, wow, I hope that never happens. And I honestly believe that we have far surpassed what she has told me about that movie. But anyway, yeah, so you have the whole safety issue. You also have the whole socialization issue. And a lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to send my kids to school because they need that socialization. But you know what? I have noticed that I live across the street from a bus stop where kids who go to the middle school and the high school, they pick the bus up there. And I also live on the same street as the elementary school. So kids walk up and down my street when they're going to and from school. I have heard how these kids talk. I have seen them fighting with each other. I have heard them name calling with each other. That's not the kind of socialization that I want for my kids. And yes, your kids do have to learn how to stand up for themselves and to face those sorts of things. But I'm not going to send my kids off to school so that they can, deal with that on their own. Trust me, I have 11 kids. My kids, they're dealing with that. They're dealing with little battles between their own siblings and them. Or sometimes, with our neighbor, they don't always get along the greatest with him. But they've learned how to work things out, and they've learned how to walk away if it looks like it's not going to happen. So, you've got that whole socialization thing. So that's another reason that I would say keep your high schoolers home. Another huge reason is that whole categorizing students thing. It really takes hold in high school. So, people tend to think of, and I tend to think of high school as being the years that kids should be getting ready for real life, for what they're going to be headed to doing when they are older. I have like this fly flying around me. I had my kitchen window open and it just, oh my gosh. Anyway, it really likes me. I'm like so distracted today. First my cat, now this. But anyway, now I completely forgot what I was saying. You see that? I think that sometimes my kids rub off on me with losing track of things and not being able to pay attention. Okay. So back onto categorizing students. They are made to take certain classes. They're not given the option a lot of times. When I was in high school, I was gifted, but I wanted to take accounting and bookkeeping because I knew that it would help. I wanted to have my own dance studio. So I knew that accounting and bookkeeping would help me. So I went to my guidance counselor at the end of the 11th grade year and said, I would like to take accounting and bookkeeping for math next year, even though I knew I didn't need a math. And he said to me, you can't take accounting and bookkeeping. Those are business courses and you're on college prep track. So, and that's what they do. They track students. And you know what? Read John Holt and John Taylor Gatto. They were teachers in the educational system, and they will tell you that once your child gets put on a certain track, it is really, really hard for them to get out of that group. It's like, that's it. It is so hard for them to get out of that group. So when your kids are homeschooled for high school, they can learn about the things that are going to suit them, the things that they are going to need, the things that are going to interest them. You know, my oldest daughter, she took like Japanese, she took Swedish. None of these things would have been able to be taken in high school. She did psychology for 3 years. You know, that's only offered as a half-year course in high school, and to be honest, I don't know that I would have agreed with the psychology that they offer in the school anyway. So, you know, that's one of the things that you have to look at is kids who are homeschooled. Not only is their curriculum more tailored to them, but really they have more of the opportunity to learn how to learn, to know how to research things, to know how to use those critical thinking skills. You know, schools always talk about critical thinking skills, and they say that's why Common Core is in place and everything. They're not teaching critical thinking skills in school. They're teaching kids what they want them to think. And if the kids do not agree with it and speak up about it, they're punished for that. So they're not teaching critical thinking skills. So that is like a huge difference. You know, schools teach kids what to think. Homeschooling, if done well, teaches kids how to think. So those are really some great reasons to think about why you would want to keep your kids home for high school. Okay, so let's see. Just going to check the chat again real quick. Anyway, so glad to see you guys here again. I thank you so much for coming every week, because it's just like sitting and having a cup of coffee with friends. You know, I love talking with like-minded people. It's so awesome. Have you experienced any push from your husband to send your kids to high school? I feel like mine might when we get there. No, my husband hated school. He used to skip school all the time. So he has absolutely no problem with me homeschooling at all. And I'm blessed with that. That's like one less obstacle to overcome, right? And I know that a lot of people have issues with, you know, a spouse not wanting them to do it. And that can be hard. But yeah, I'm very blessed in that. Let's see. Coral Johnson said, I don't talk too much. I'm going to show my kids that part of the chat. Thank you. Let's see. I'm committed to homeschooling through high school. My son is 7th grade, so we are a few years away. You know what? You are going to do such an awesome job. And again, it's just such a great way for kids of this age to learn, to just get their feet wet in the things that they want to do. You know, sometimes kids at this age, since they are working, a lot of times they can get jobs that are really close to the area. I don't mean locality. I mean, you know, like close to the field work of what they want to do. So, you know, like if they want to become a veterinarian, maybe they could get a job like at a zoo, or they could volunteer at an animal shelter, and they just have so much more time in order to be able to do this. So it kind of really is akin to years ago, before compulsory schooling was ever a thing. You know, people were doing apprenticeships. They were apprentices. I keep thinking of Johnny Tremaine, you know, if you ever read that book, how he was a silversmith apprentice in the beginning of the book. And that's what they did then. And I think that there are a lot more opportunities like that with homeschooled students now. And that is, to me, it's just so much more meaningful to them, rather than just sitting in a classroom learning things that honestly they're not gonna ever need. And it's sad to say that, because I know, especially for people who are teachers and for people who are professors, it probably hurts them to hear people say things like that. But you know what? I think that people have noticed through experience that that is really the case. Though the things that we spend all that time learning in school, most of it we don't ever need it for anything. Let's see. My husband is a director of our local library system now. He is a master of library science. Ooh, I know who's going to be teaching science in your house. That's awesome. Let's see. Have you had any problems? Now I lost it again. Every time I start talking about one, my chat jumps away from me. So I am going to go back. Okay. Have you had any problems with high schoolers and time management? Yeah, with my 18-year-old son. Now he has ADHD. So at times I was having to tell him, you know, did you get this done? Did you get that done? And he would just start to get completely irritated with me because he saw that, you know, his older sister, she's only 11 months older than him, and he would see that with her I was kind of just letting her do her own thing, but it was because I knew that she was getting her stuff done. I knew that, you know, it wouldn't be an issue, where with him it was always kind of trying to help him to just keep things in order a little bit. So that was hard, and it really caused a lot of stress for us. But what ended up happening was I had a talk with him, and I explained to him why I was on him a little bit more than I was his sister. And I just said to him, you know what? I am going to trust you. I'm going to let you finish your schoolwork in a time period that you want to do it. It had to be done that day. You know, I didn't mean like this month or something. It had to be done sometime that day. I said, but if it becomes a problem that I see that it's not getting done, then we're going to have to work on it. And I noticed that once he knew that I was granting him that trust, he was actually better able to get his work done on time. So that was something. I think the kids, they just need to know that you trust them. And that can be hard for us as parents when, again, I saw like how he was having issues when he was younger, but they have to at some point be able to learn how to do those things on their own anyway. And what better time for them to learn to try to do that the best they can on their own than when they're still at home with you and when they're still safe, you know, within the confines of your home and with your guidance. Let's see. I have 3 high school aged boys. We just go with it. Most days I have no clue. Yeah, and you know what? That's where I am a lot now too, because they're learning. You know, if they're not, as long as they're not like sitting in front of the TV vegging out all day long. You know, my 14-year-old daughter, she likes to go to the creek. She likes to catch fish like with her hands. And she's very much like her older brother, which is probably why they butt heads so much. I always say that my 14-year-old daughter, she is like, I always say she's girl Dylan because my son's name is Dylan, and I always call her girl Dylan because she is just like him, and that's why I think they don't get along so well all the time. But yeah, and a lot of times she'll go to the park or she'll go to the creek and she'll come back and she'll say, hey mom, you know, did that count as anything? Can that count as science? And you know, there are times that I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I can. Not all the time. I don't do it all the time. But yeah, a lot of times it has been go with the flow with us lately. I have a question. Sorry to get off topic, but do you actually keep grades for your kiddos? And if so, what system do you use? I don't use grades. I started out when we very first started homeschooling. I gave grades, and I don't anymore. We're not required to in school. I mean, not in school. We're not required to with our state homeschool laws. And to me, it's like I'm trying to stay as far away from like the traditional school setup as possible. And to me, I don't see any need for them. So far, I have not used grades in our homeschool. And you know what? We don't even do tests. We do the standardized tests that the kids have to take in 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade. They always do really well on them. But other than that, we don't do tests either. And because, again, I just think that there are so many other ways to assess learning. And I actually did do a video on that, too. Teachers are qualified to know how to do government paperwork, but they follow a curriculum when they teach, just like we do. Yes, that's really true. That is a main part of what they're learning, is how to do, you know, all the paperwork and how to do classroom management, because they're going to have like 30 kids in the classroom. And, you know, most of us, well, I don't know of any of us that have 30 kids. So we're going to have much smaller groups of kids Usually, like even me, I'm an extreme. Now, of course, there are people who have more kids than I do, but I would say that most homeschooling families probably have, I don't know, like 3 or 4 kids. I'm just guessing here, but that is way off from 30. So we don't need that the classroom management either. So yeah, and I think that a lot of people, and me included, I was one of those people, I just thought teachers know everything. They go to school and they somehow magically, poof, they know everything. They know everything there is to know. They know how to do everything. They never have questions about anything. And I know now that that is not true, because I've had teachers tell me, whoa, no, that's not even true. But yeah, and it's just something that we can't get it into our thick skulls that we as moms were our kids' first teachers. And actually, there was a meme going around on Instagram. I don't know if I'm going to get it right, but it was basically, that if parents, or if a school would start opening up claiming that they were teaching babies to walk within one generation, people everywhere would think that school was required in order for babies to learn how to walk. It's like, since the compulsory education system has been around for so long now, which isn't even that long, like 150 years, which is like a blink of an eye in history. But that's all we know now. So it's like, oh, learning happens at school. Learning happens by teachers. And it's the same thing, really. If you would start sending babies off to school to learn how to walk, within a generation, people would think you had to do that or your kids were never going to walk. And we all know that's not true. So, we shouldn't be expected to be experts in every area we teach. And that's true. You just have to learn to sit down and learn alongside your child. And even if that does not work, even if trying to sit down and do it with your child doesn't work, there are tutors. There are online curriculum programs that you can use. There are other homeschool students, co-ops. There are so many options that you have. You don't have to know everything. And even if you try to learn it with your child and still have a hard time, you don't have to give up. There are ways. And I know that even my own daughter, a lot of times, she was able to just sit down and figure it out on her own. When I was out of her hair and not trying to talk in her ear and confusing her even more, she would sit down, in the peace and quiet of her own room. She would figure it out. So, there are just so many ways that those things can happen. Let's see. I found, in all honesty, my homeschool children get praise from outside people on how well they interact with others than kiddos who go to public school. The socialization thing is a joke. That's true. We go to every other month, our church has something called WIN. It's Women's Inspiration Network. And it's just where, like a group of women get together. We listen to a speaker. We have a meal together. And I remember the one year I was sitting at a table with a bunch of older women. They were probably like in their 60s or 70s. And I walked away from the table for a minute, and my daughter was with them. She's my 16-year-old daughter now, but she was probably about 10 at this time. And I got back to the table, and they were just gushing over how well spoken she was and how easygoing she was, and just having this whole conversation with them. And it's funny because it was like in the middle of a Chinese auction. I think the proceeds were going like to help stop child trafficking or something like that. So they ended up buying her tickets for this Chinese auction, and then they actually won a few things and gave them to my daughter. And it was such a fun time. And yeah, it was such a great way. I think a lot of older people nowadays will write off teenagers because they see the attitudes that are going on out there. And I think that it's a great way for them to see that not all kids are like that. Let's see. Trying to see. I was homeschooled for 6 years, and I graduated from home in 2008. I went off to a private college in Pennsylvania. I totally agree that high school is the time to have them home. Thank you. And I love when people who actually had that experience from the other end coming in to just kind of validate what I'm saying, because a lot of people can be like, okay, what does she know? She's not the one that was homeschooled. But yeah, thank you. I love when former homeschoolers, like people who themselves were homeschooled, chat. And I also love when people who were teachers leave comments too, because I just like to get, you know, all those different opinions, because I don't know everything. And a lot of times I'm just speaking from my own experience or from what other people themselves have said to me. So just like teachers, I don't know everything. So, and that's the thing. I try to really only talk about the things that I'm pretty confident about. So yeah, so that's why if you do ask me things about grades and those sorts of things, I'll probably direct you to someone else, because that's just not an area that I really deal with that much. Let's see. All right, my 14-year-old has learning difficulties and high-functioning autism. We'll be homeschooling her this fall for high school. Her biggest issue is wanting friends. We live very rural. Any ideas? Do you have a 4-H in your area? Because I know that there's a lot of 4-H programs. Would she be comfortable in something like that? I don't know. Oh, I wish my friend was here. My friend, she has 2 children on the autism spectrum, and they're both in high school, and she's homeschooling them. I wish she were here, because she would probably be able to give you some great advice on that. Let's see. I'm just keep on asking questions. Yeah, I'll need to go to an online DVD math curriculum for high school maths. I love ctcmath.com. It's awesome. I could sit and watch the videos with my kids. I think it's so interesting. And the videos, they're like not really long. They're short, but they explain things really well. Yeah, CTC Math, I will, for a while now, at least until it stops working for us, you're going to hear me talking about that a lot, because it really does seem to be working great for us. Barefoot in the Country said, I'm late. Better late than never. I'm so glad you're here. Let's see. Prepare for life versus prepare for a college-worthy transcript. Sometimes it feels like we have to choose. Yes, Shannon, that is so true. I also, you know, speaking of college and transcripts and all those sorts of things, that's another way that I really differ from a lot of homeschooling parents, is that I'm not going to freak out if my kids decide not to go to college, because I honestly see them kind of as just an extension of the failed public education system. Not all of them, but a good portion of them. And, you know, it's just at the point now where pretty soon those college degrees, they're just not going to matter much anymore, because they're like a dime a dozen now. Everyone has one. And, you know, it's like now you need a bachelor's degree, and then it's going to be you need a master's degree in order to get a job. And then it's going to be, well, too many people have master's degrees. Now they're going to be, you know, need a PhD or doctorate or whatever. And it's just like, I'm okay with my kids if they want to go to college. I'm okay if they don't want to go to college. To me, I think that where we are at right now in society, I'm all about entrepreneurship. I would love for my kids to have that entrepreneurial spirit, you know, because I just think that a lot of the colleges are just indoctrinating kids even longer, you know, not educating, indoctrinating. And, you know, I mentioned it before in one of my other videos. I read a study where they like tested students who went off to college and found that they knew more educationally. They knew more before they started college than they did when they got out. They actually lost information. And of the remaining kids who were tested that did not lose information, they remained the same. They didn't learn any additional information. And, you know, if you just look at, you know, there's videos all over YouTube. You know, you're asking college students, like, where is this country? And it's on a map. And it's not like some obscure country that most of us have never heard of. You know, it could be something as simple as, where is Spain? And they will have no idea. They'll be like looking over in Asia. They have no idea. And it's like, where is all this money going to in college? So yeah, that's what, you know, I don't freak out over college. I really don't. I'm just kind of very laid back about that whole thing. Let's see. Oh, I wish math was not needed too. I honestly, you know, if they know how to balance a checkbook, if they know how to count money, if they know how to do basic math in their head, you know, it's like to be able to go to the store if something says it's 25% off, how to figure that out and everything. I have never once in my life had to use like a polynomial expression for anything. It's like, okay, I spent all that time in school learning about like polynomials and learning about like the sines and the cosines. Never have I ever needed any of that stuff. Yes, there are kids who have, who will go on to careers that will need those sorts of things, like engineers. But most people don't need that. So why do they waste our time on that? Why? So that's, inquiring minds want to know. Okay. What is a good high school English writing curriculum? I think that Apologia Writers in Residence is really good. And that also includes like some grammar in there too. And it really does it like step by step of how to do things. It tells you how to find like sources, reliable sources. So yeah, check out Apologia Writers in Residence. And I'm saying this to Grace and Granola. Let's see. It just bumped down on me again. It loves to do that. Okay, so Sherry Price said, I was homeschooled and so was my husband. Wow, that is awesome. You don't hear of that very often. We homeschool our 3 kids and wouldn't have it any other way. We are the only ones from our families. Both have 2 siblings that homeschool our kids. Wow, that's a shame that you're the only ones that are homeschooling, but I love that. It's like you've got a completely second generation homeschooling family. Not even just, a lot of times it's one of the parents that was homeschooled, but both parents were homeschooled. That is awesome. Let me see. Coral Johnson says, my twins have autism. They're very active in our local 4-H program. Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking that 4-H would be good, especially in a rural area, because I know that sometimes it can be hard to get together when you're, kind of out there. I think they should be taught consumer math and how to do what we use every day. Budget, shopping, balancing checkbook. Yes, I completely agree with that. And one thing that I do have to say about consumer math is that I tried to do Abeka consumer math with my daughter, my first homeschool graduate. We ended up just stopping it because even though it was consumer math, and to me, consumer math is the kind of math that you need in everyday life. That's what most people think of it. But I was noticing in this consumer math book that it was stuff that she was never going to use. And yeah, it might be practical to some people, but it wasn't practical to her. So what we ended up doing was just stopping that consumer math curriculum. And I think that it's much, much more beneficial to just let them, see how you're handling things in real life. Let them learn real world math, not by doing real world math in a curriculum, but by actually doing real world math, like in the real world. That's one thing that I have to say to a lot of people. If you're considering doing consumer math, I would really, really try as much as you can to just get your kids involved in, your financial situation. You don't have to give them, all of your secrets and everything, but I'm just saying, let them know the things that they're going to need to know when they're older. Let them get their hands dirty, so to speak, with you. So they're going to be able to understand things so much better when they see it actually being done in real life than if they're just looking at it in the pages of a book. And again, I've noticed that even curriculums that are supposed to be about real life stuff sometimes really go off on tangents that you're like, whoa, where did that come from? We're never going to do that. So yes, but consumer math is definitely a necessity. Let me see. Yeah, Heidi also likes CTC math, see? Coral says it's already that way with degrees. Libraries are currently being encouraged to not hire anyone unless they're the pages shelving books, unless they have a Master of Library Science degree. Yeah, see, and it's just going to keep happening more and more and more because more and more and more people are getting degrees. Those degrees, they're losing their value. So we're just going to reach a point in time where they're just not going to matter as much. And that's why I really do, again, entrepreneurship, let your kids find what they're good at and find a way that they can produce something that will be good for other people. Maybe it's some sort of goods or some sort of service that they can do on their own rather than having to be out there competing with a bunch of other people for a job that probably isn't going to pay very well. So yeah, I really think that that's just, I think it has to come full circle. You know, entrepreneurship was like the thing before compulsory schooling started. And then once compulsory schooling happened, it was all about consumerism and about just doing certain jobs that had to be done, because now we have all these factories, these jobs have to be filled. And now we've got that going, you know, with all the office jobs and everything that have to be filled. But it's going to come full circle, I believe. It started at entrepreneurship, and I think that we're going to get back to entrepreneurship again. And you can see that happening even now. It's just so much more present than it was for a while. Let me see. Yeah. Erica N said, my husband and I feel the same way about college, unless you just have to go for nursing or something like that. We're not pushing it for sure. Yeah. You know, it's like, I can understand needing a college degree for some things. You know, I would never want a doctor who didn't have a college degree. But, you know, there are some careers that it's just like, why in the world would you need a degree for that? It's just not necessary. And even like now my son, he has his associate's degree. My oldest son, my 24, actually he'll be 25 on Monday. Oh my gosh, I'm so old. But anyway, my oldest son, he'll be 25. He has his associate's degree, and he was talking about moving on to get a bachelor's, and he wants to be a writer. And I'm just, you know, and I questioned him. We had this conversation. I'm like, why do you think you need a degree to become a writer? You know, and that's just, it's just, again, that's just one of those notions that kids are fed. You have to have a degree. You have to have a degree. Well, no, you really don't have to have a degree for everything. So it's whatever happened to meritocracy, whatever happened to people getting jobs based on merit and not based on a piece of paper. Because, you know, those pieces of paper, they don't really show what you actually know. They show maybe how well you tested. They show how well you crammed for a test the night before. They don't show true knowledge. Your merit, the things that you are actually showing then and there, that is what is showing what you actually know. So, let's see. My 11th grade son really struggles with writing. And there we go. He is planning on going to community college, so he does need something pretty strong. Oh, okay. So that's, yeah, I really think Writers in Residence is a really good one. And that is through Apologia. So it's a really well-known, respected homeschool curriculum provider. So yeah, it's Apologia Writers in Residence. Let's see. Amy Marie said, I really regret all the tears and years wasted forcing my 4 adult kids to learn higher math. None of them are math-minded and went into a science math field. Now I focus on real-life math. Yeah, and you know what? We learn from our mistakes. I did the same thing, you know, with reading. I remember my 12-year-old daughter, she's like actually laying on the sofa next to me sleeping right now. She wanted to be sitting down here for my live stream, and I put her to sleep. I'm so boring. But anyway, I feel so bad because I pulled her out of school when she was in kindergarten. This was like after I sent the kids back to school for 2 years when I burned out. So I sent them, I homeschooled, like they were in school. I took them out and homeschooled them for 2 years. And then I sent them back to school for 2 years. And then I pulled them back out. She was in kindergarten for 2 months when I pulled them back out. And I was just in this whole mindset of, she has to learn how to read now. She has to learn. And I remember that she would just sit and cry while I was trying to teach her to read, because I was just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it so much. And I still had the whole school timeline thing in my head. And you know, that's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about this, because I remember when my kids were in tears because of me. And even now, you know, sometimes with math, that's like a big struggle I still have at times. That's why I love CTC math, because it's kind of taken off of me. That's why I'm so passionate about it though, because we've got to learn from our mistakes. And if I can help other people, and you know what, sometimes someone telling you not to do something, it won't impact you as much as when you do it yourself. You know, it might help you more, but I'm really hoping that I can help some people to at least not make some of the mistakes that I did, because no one wants to see their kid crying because they're just not ready to read yet, and you're trying to force that on them. So that was, yeah. Anyway. So anyway, Amy Marie, that was in reference to your comment. You're not alone. Um, Abeka can make any subject schoolish. Yeah, that was the consumer math. I agree. I completely agree. I know that a lot of people like Abeka. And I've got to say, though, I do use Abeka math for my 5-year-old and my 7-year-old. And actually, yeah, and my 8-year-old, too. They all do Abeka math. And I do like that. But for everything else, because we actually had some Abeka curriculum given to us before, it was like they gave us Abeka history, Abeka health, Abeka science, and I just kind of looked at it and I was like, it gave me like a sick feeling in my stomach because I was just like, no, this is not the path I want to take. So, you know, now we sometimes might use it for a reference. Like if we want to learn about a specific person, we might check out the index of the history book to see if they have anything about him. But yeah, it's just, you're right. It's very schoolish. Let's see. Okay. Shelly, I bought my son a math supplement from Simply Charlotte Mason this year for 5th grade. That is how to run a pet store. It teaches them how to order supplies, balance a ledger. Really? I'm going to have to check that out. Simply Charlotte Mason. And I even subscribe to them. How did I miss that? But you know what? To be honest with you, I'm like, you would think I would be online, like reading all the time and everything. I never really have time to be online unless I'm working. Let's see. Yeah, Dave Ramsey. I have heard so many good things about the Dave Ramsey resources. A friend of mine, Michelle, I don't know if any of you have ever read the blog, Homeschool Your Boys. Well, the writer of that, Michelle Caskey, she's a good friend of mine, and I know that she loves the Dave Ramsey resources. Let's see. My first job out of college paid $28,000. Seriously, it was pathetic. Wish I had learned a trade. Yeah, and you know what, though? I even have to say, like, my husband, he's a welder. And so everybody automatically assumes that he, like, makes really good money because he's a welder. He doesn't. He's honestly, he earns a little over $1 more an hour than when he started there, like, 14 years ago. So it's like, this economy, I know that it's getting better. I know it is. But because he actually just got his first raise in a while just a few months ago. But it's like, come on, only a little over $1 an hour more. And, you know, yeah, so even trades aren't always guarantees. Okay, Shannon says, grew up in public school and pulled my daughters from public school and middle school 3 years ago, praise God. It has taken so much effort to break my mind from the classroom mindset. Thankful for you. You're so welcome. And you know, I've got to say that I have got to credit that, like me learning to break out of that mindset with John Holt and John Taylor Gatto. I say that probably every video, but they were like lifesavers for me. John Holt, learning all the time. And I know that he's really well known for How Children Fail and How Children Learn. But my favorite book of his is Learning All the Time. That is the book that just completely changed my whole philosophy of homeschooling. It opened my eyes to so many things. Let's see. Okay. Barefoot in the Country says, as an entrepreneur, I'm amazed how much in this day and age I am treated like I don't have a legit job or career because I'm not employed. Isn't that ridiculous? It's all just about that whole conditioning things. We've been conditioned our whole lives to believe certain things. And that's why I think it's so important that as homeschooling parents, we teach our kids to know how to look into things and find out the truth about things. You cannot always believe what you're told. And you know, that was hard for me. I think homeschooling itself, you know, finding out the true history of compulsory schooling, that was like my red pill moment. Like, you ever hear people saying, you know, like they were red pilled? That was my moment when I read about compulsory schooling and the history of it. That just like opened up a rabbit hole for so many different things. And now I cannot stress to my kids enough, don't ever just accept what you're told. You have got to look into things, because not everybody has your best interests at heart, truly. My son is a birthday Monday too. Penny said that. It's a good day, isn't it? Tell him happy birthday. How old is he going to be? Oh, my son, a quarter of a century old. And then my birthday is next Wednesday. So yeah, I had him 2 days before my birthday. I remember I came home from the hospital on my birthday, And everybody forgot my birthday because they were so excited about the baby. But that's okay. Let's see. I think it's so important that people are rewarded for what they know and the work that they do, even in the work world. Yes. Yes. You've got to be recognized. Coral Johnson says, I have one of those pieces of paper. It says master's on it. I'm a homeschool mom of 6. I do basically nothing having to do with what I studied, but I'm still paying that student loan. Yeah, I was just reading articles about that, about student debt and everything, and it's sad. All the money that you end up paying back, and just so many times, now sometimes, Coral, and the thing is that I have to tell you is that even though you are having to pay back that debt, you have that debt and everything, you are doing so much by homeschooling your 6 kids. I mean, I think that, just as we were talking about, Barefoot in the Country was talking about how entrepreneurs don't get the respect. They're treated like they don't have real jobs because they're entrepreneurs. I think that we homeschooling parents, I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit. And I don't think that the outside world gives us enough credit for what we're doing, because it is so important. We are literally shaping the future, and that's a tough job. And it's something that we have voluntarily taken on ourselves. And not only do we not get paid for it monetarily, now we do get paid for it in many ways, but we don't get paid for it financially. And in a lot of ways, we're actually losing money because of it. But it is so, so worth it. Let's see. If they have no interest in going to college, do they need a writing curriculum, or are the basics enough? I say the basics are enough. I don't, you know what? I have 2 high schoolers right now. Neither one of them is using a writing curriculum. They do notebooking and they do copy work, and there is no writing curriculum. And the thing is that my 16-year-old, she's not sure. She might want to go to college. She's not really. The thing that's holding her back from wanting to go to college is because my oldest son, when he got his associate's degree, he did a lot of his classes online, and he had to take a public speaking class. Like, it was one of those core classes that he had to take. And she doesn't want to do public speaking. And I'm like, what's wrong with public speaking? But she doesn't want to do public speaking. And so that's like the thing that's holding her back from wanting to go to school, is that she doesn't want to do public speaking. Kaylin, can you get the door? I think my oldest son is home now. He was out. But anyway, so yeah, so even my daughter, who might be wanting to go to school, she's not using a writing curriculum this year. Now, next year, her senior year, if she does finally say, you know what, I'm sure you don't have to be quiet. I already told them you're coming in the door. So anyway, if she decides that she wants to go to school, to college, then I do have my oldest daughter. It's not a curriculum, but it's actually a book that I got at Barnes & Noble, and it shows you like how to do APA formatting and what's the other one, MLA formatting. And it just goes over basically essential skills that you need for college. And that's more what I would do with her rather than an actual curriculum, because, if you've seen my channel, if you've read my blog, I'm not a big curriculum person. Let's see. So many young couples are burdened with lots of college debt, which leads to moms having to work out of the home, and the kids miss out on a better family life. That's true. I was actually just talking about that with my daughter's GI doctor, of all people. We were basically talking about how, back in the day, it was like mom stayed home, dad worked, but dads got paid a lot more than they do now. So basically it's like mom and dad now have to work to make what just the father worked, or the husband made back, decades ago. And it's a sad situation because it has so negatively impacted the family. I'm just going to drink some water quick. Okay. Let's see. It keeps like jumping up. My computer does not like me. I'm like so far behind. All right. Erica N says, please know this. You have helped me and encouraged me more than you know. Thank you. You know what? And you guys, you encourage me, because for the longest time, I was just like, I don't know what God's plan is for me. I have I had honestly no idea. And actually someone at church even like gave me a book about like how to determine God's will for your life and everything. And I was just like, I kind of felt like having all these kids, I couldn't really get involved in a lot of ministries at church because I just don't have the time. I'm always, running around, or I always have kids with me. And I just kind of felt like I wasn't contributing to anything. And you guys really, you have given me a purpose. And I want to thank you so much for that. You, as much as I encourage you, I think you encourage me like twice as much. So thank you. And I'm so happy that you guys come here to chat with me on Thursdays now. I should have done this long ago. Let's see. It's a Mary Life said, I did the same thing with my first, pushed him to read before he was ready. He had a learning disability on top of it all. You know what? It's so sad that we do that. But again, we learn from our mistakes, right? Okay. Oh, thank you, Coral. I love you ladies. Okay. Barefoot in the Country said, yes, reading John Holt basically gave me permission to do everything I wanted but kept fighting because it's so different. Yes, that's the perfect term, permission. It's like we still need permission. We still feel like we need permission. We don't, but we feel like we need it. And he did. He provided that in so many ways. Okay. Erica said, I put the videos on in the morning or while cooking dinner. Shelly's voice is on through the house. Oh my gosh. I wish my daughter was awake. She'd probably be sitting here rolling her eyes. But thank you. Vicki Hayes said, my birthday is Sunday. 50, the big 50. Happy birthday. I am going to be 44. I'm so sad. And I know that like age is just a number and it doesn't bother people, but it bothers me. It really does. Like, can I tell you that I had my 7-year-old daughter convinced for the longest time that I was still 29. And she would always ask me, Mom, how old are you? And I would say 29. And then the kids would be chiming in the background. No, she's not. She's 43. And then she would argue with them and say, no, she's 29. And then she like started doing the math and was like, wait a minute. If Brendan is 24, how is Mom 29? So she caught me now. But yeah. All right. And actually Sunday is my mother-in-law's birthday too. So many birthdays this week. Oh, and then your baby boy will turn 5 on the 8th. Yep. See? Yes, I'm one of those moms that has grandkids older than my baby. Well, I do. Now, I don't have any nieces and nephews who are older than I am, but I did become an aunt when I was only 16 months old. My niece is only like a little over a year younger than me. Okay, Christine said, hi, I'm so thankful for all the info you provide. My husband and I may get the chance to homeschool in Rhode Island. I mentioned it to my 14-year-old, and he pushed back at the idea so much, so it opened up doubt. I know, and you know what? It's hard because it's something that's completely new to them, and he's probably thinking of like what he's going to miss out on. And that's the thing, my oldest daughter, other than my oldest son, she probably spent more time in public school than any of my other kids. Well, no, she did. Not probably, she did. Because even when I pulled my other kids back out of school the second time, I left her stay in school because she was in honors classes. She was doing really well, and she didn't have any issues. But then when it came time for her for high school, she actually asked me to homeschool her for high school, because in Pennsylvania, you have to take something called Keystone tests. And as smart as my daughter is, she gets really nervous around tests. She did not want to do the testing. So she asked me to homeschool her for high school, which of course I jumped at the chance because I wanted to from the very beginning. But I did have to reassure her that, she wasn't going to miss out on anything. And the thing is that she ended up seeing her friends and doing more things after she was homeschooled than while she was still in school. You really have to make sure you make an effort of it. And I think it makes it a little bit easier if your kid has been in school for a while first, because they actually at least have that foundation of friends already. So you just have to keep making sure that you give them plenty of opportunities to see their friends. But at the same time, I think that homeschooling really gives you a lot of time to start focusing a lot on the family. I think family has to come first. So and it's something that a lot of kids just have to get used to, and a lot of parents too. Let's see. Coral Johnson said, I do not regret going to school and learning what I learned, but I wish I had learned money management better growing up so I didn't have those loans. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. You and my husband share the same birthday. Happy early birthday. Thank you. And tell your husband happy birthday too. It's a good day. Penny has never used a writing curriculum. 3 of them are very good writers. Yeah, I think that if you just see it modeled, if you read a lot, that's the thing, reading a lot, because you are seeing that writing modeled. You're seeing what good writing looks like. And if you read books that aren't written well, a lot of times you can sense that. So I don't think that like Ben Franklin had a writing curriculum, you know. I'm pretty sure it was Ben Franklin who said that he learned how to write by reading different styles of writers. So, you know, it's like we oftentimes think that we need curriculum for everything. But if you think about it, curriculum isn't always textbooks. Curriculum is any materials that you're using to help your kids to learn. So your curriculum, my cat is like constantly at my front window. She drives me crazy. Anyway, so curriculum could be the library. Curriculum could be like life. Curriculum could be your like art supplies, or the things that you strew with. If you ever heard of strewing, it's kind of like just leaving interesting things around the house for your kids to pick up and decide on their own that they want to do it. You know, curriculum does not have to be just textbooks. Curriculum is anything that is going to help your kids learn. Okay. Infinity Gamer Heather said, I agree, homeschoolers are often looked down upon as if we are doing a disservice to our children by some. I know, and it's that whole conditioning thing. But, you know, I have got to say that I'm finding at least that over time people are realizing that it's not what people think it is. You know, we're not locking our kids up in the basement, you know, and making them, you know, like spout memorization and not letting them have any friends or anything like that. It's not like that. It's not what people think it is. And especially with just the whole safety issues that go on with our school nowadays. I think that more people are starting to say, hey, you know what, good for you for homeschooling your kids. You're always going to have naysayers. You are, especially, I've got to say it, there are especially people who are all about, they like things regulated. They like regulations. Those are normally the types of people who don't like homeschooling because they don't like parents having that freedom. So, let's see. Sherry Price said, public speaking was my last class I took for my associates because I was dreading it. Turned out to be one of my very favorite classes. I was so shocked. Yeah, I think I would have loved public speaking. I never took public speaking, Coral Johnson said, and all my coursework clear through my master's degree. Wow, see, and my son, like, he had to take it. It was, you know, non-negotiable. He had to take it. Let's see. As for me and my house homeschool said, hi, Shelly, I love your channel. You've been such a great inspiration to our homeschool, and I love how you just say what you mean about public school. Yeah, and you know what? I think that a lot of homeschool bloggers, and I have a lot of friends who are homeschool bloggers because I'm in iHomeschool Network, so I get to, you know, interact with a lot of other people who do this sort of thing. And I think that a lot of people really try to just stay safe. You know, they don't want to offend people, and they just kind of talk about things that are like the straight and narrow. But my thought is that people aren't going to hear the truth if you're always afraid to say it to them. A lot of times, truth and I don't even want to say safe. How about playing it safe? A lot of times, truth and playing it safe don't mesh well together because a lot of the things that you don't know about, you have to step out of your comfort zone and you have to be able to say to people, pay attention. This is what's happening. And, you know, I know that I will offend some people with some of my posts, like especially some of them. I think my one that I made a while ago, my video about the library had like 10 thumbs downs on it. A lot of thumbs ups too, way more than that. But it was like at first, you know, when I used to get thumbs down, I used to get really upset about it. Like, oh my gosh, somebody didn't like my video. But now it's like I realize that. And the fact is that yes, I know that I offend people sometimes. But I think it's so important that we spread truth. And when you spread truth, some people aren't going to like it. So yeah, that's how I'm different from a lot of my fellow homeschool blogger friends. I I don't play it safe. I will admit to that. And, you know, some people might kind of shy away from that, but that's my personality. You know, I think truth is so important. Let's see. I just shared your playlist for tips and relaxed homeschooling with someone I know thinks like we do. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Vicky Hayes said, one even asked him how he would ever be able to teach trig. He asked them what they have ever used trigonometry for. He does the same job they do. Blank stare. It's true. What do they need trig for? Yeah, I did trig. I don't remember any of it. You know why I don't remember any of it? Because I never had to use it. If I had to use it, I would remember it. So it's not necessary. Let's see. Cassandra Swindell, I'm not sure if I said that right, said, I didn't graduate from high school. I didn't think I could homeschool. You helped me feel qualified. Thank you. You are so welcome. We moms, you know, we need to start having confidence in ourselves. If you love your kids, you're going to do what you need to do to get them what they need, you know, to help them to learn, to get them prepared for the real world. All that you really need to instill in your kids is just the knowledge of how to research, how to find things out, how to figure things out on their own if they have to. They just have to know where to look and how to find it. You are so welcome, Cookie Crumb fan, or Cookie Crumb Fun. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Yes, I think I'm going to have to wrap this up soon because it's already 11:09. And it's always like, it doesn't seem like that long. It literally seems like I've been talking for like 20 minutes and it's been like an hour and 10 minutes now. My grandpa said he turned 18 every year. He was born in 1910. We celebrated his 16th birthday every year until he died just after his 70th. I'm totally going to do that. I love that. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Anyway. Cookie Crumb Fun said, I went to a Bible college but did not get a teaching degree like everyone else, the girls. I took classes on things I knew I would use in life. 20 years later, I used that info I learned. Yes. That is the smart way to do it. And yeah, Penny Douglas said, even when you try to please everyone, you never can. That's true. That's true. Mystery Epiphany said, silly question. Can you tell your kids to Google it and still be a homeschool parent? Should I digest what I find on Google and give them the good stuff only? That's hard, you know, because I have noticed that I don't always trust Google anymore because I've seen that they have started filtering their responses to fit their worldview. It's kind of like with that whole social media thing. You know, that whole social media thing, you know, where they started censoring channels that go against like their way of thinking. And, you know, it's even started to happen with Pinterest now. I saw someone mention on Instagram today that Pinterest is now no longer allowing pins about anti-vax or about like natural healing and those sorts of things. They're starting to censor those pins now. And you know, that's just the way that it is now with Google. It's kind of like they're putting the answers that they want you to see up at the top. So the thing is that, yes, and Coral Johnson said knowing how to sort information available is totally a teaching subject. How will they learn that if they never have the chance to sort information? Yes, that is so true. Thank you, Coral. I think that it's something that you really do. Don't just say to them, Google it at first. I think that you just need to have this conversation with them about how to find reliable information. Maybe sit down with them the first several times that they're doing it so that you can maybe even just show them tips on how to find things that maybe aren't completely accurate. It's hard though in this day and age. It's like we went from just freedom of speech, and I don't want to say complete objectivity because it was never really like that, but it's just gotten to the point now where everything that we see is being filtered, like the news we see, the stuff that shows up first on Google search engines. Even like if you search things on YouTube, search certain videos, you will see that they're putting the things that fit their agenda at the top, and you really have to scroll all the way through to get down to the bottom to the things that I truly believe a lot of those things are the truth. And it's being suppressed. So it's hard. You just, that's something that you really have to work on with your kids. And also, you have to even learn how to work on that as an adult, too. It's sad. Anyway, but I am going to get going. Oh, hold on one second. My 10-year-old son has been into survival skills lately, and he took it upon himself to watch survival videos and made a water purifier out of a tin can and a stone hammer out of a branch and a rock. That is so cool. He sounds a lot like my oldest son. My oldest son used to go outside and play Man vs. Wild all the time. Age of communication and information, and we know less than we ever have. Yes. Yes. Isn't that awful? I just keep thinking of 1984, that book, how they like completely rewrote history and no one really knew what the truth was anymore. And it's just, that's where we are now. And just like in 1984, most of the people weren't even aware that they didn't know the truth. They still thought they were being fed the truth. And it's like, that's what's going on nowadays. People aren't aware that we don't know what we think we know. Anyway, go to Christian websites about those subjects. Yeah, the only problem is that a lot of subjects don't, or a lot of Christian websites don't have everything, but yes, I would definitely, and you know what though, I have to even say that even some Christian websites I have seen that I don't completely agree with. So even that at times is hard. It's like we have so much information and it just makes it even harder for us to filter out the good from the bad. Anyway, will you make videos on those subjects? Well, I was kind of playing with the idea of doing that at some point, but I think that I wanted to try to keep this channel as mainly homeschooling, and I was thinking of maybe starting another channel to do those sorts of things. We'll see, because I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut about a lot of things. And I've said this last week too, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I will say a lot more on Instagram about different subjects than I do here. Just because I try to keep, this as homeschooling and education. But at some point, yes, I would love to maybe start another channel and talking about those subjects that we're totally not being told the truth about. And it's just, people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They get mad and they just think, oh no, that's not true. Well, you know what? I was one of those people. I always thought, oh, that's so stupid. And then when you actually look into those things yourself, it's kind of like I was at a point where I was literally depressed because everything that I thought I knew, I didn't know. So, yeah. Anyway, let's see. Erica said, I'll be there if you do. I love what you post on Instagram. So you see that I can't keep my mouth shut. That's like one of my downfalls. So it is education. You're right. You're right. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like that is stepping out of my comfort zone, which I do a lot. But some things I'm just like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready to go there. But anyway, all right. So thank you so much, Erica, for your encouragement. Thank you so much, everybody, for your encouragement. I think that I am going to shut this down tonight. Yes, we have been taught and misled about so many things. It's sad, and so many people don't realize it, and it frustrates me. That's why I'm just like, wake up, wake up. Anyway, yes, I'm so happy to see so many of you. Oh, can you share what your Instagram name is so I can find you? It's theirs, and then, oh my gosh, what is that, like, not the dash, like the lower line? Does anybody know what that's called? It's like theirs, and then there's like the bottom line. Why can I not remember what it's called? No place like, and then the bottom line again, home. If you actually go to the description box down below, I have a list of all the links where you can find me. Like I have the link to like, my Facebook page, my Facebook group, my Instagram, my Twitter, like all of my links like that. If you scroll down to the description box, I have those there. So you'll find my Instagram there. Let's see. So, oh, when you post about the sky, I loved you even more. Oh, that's another thing that really gets me going. And the only reason that I stopped posting about that stuff for like a while is because our skies were okay here for a while. And I was like, woohoo, what's going on? So we'll see. I'm sure it's going to start back up again soon. But anyway, thank you so much, guys. I am going to end tonight, and I look forward, yes, thank you. I look forward to seeing you guys next Thursday night, same time, 10 o'clock. Not quite sure what my topic is going to be. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. But anyway, thank you again for coming. I appreciate all of you so much, and I hope you have a great night.